complementing that.
But are you all for diversity, right?
No.
Then wait, so legal immigration is bad.
Right now, we have way too much legal immigration.
But I say this with all love and all respect. Charlie Kirk has, in a sense, fallen for his political agenda over...
Made by, what's the difference?
Think about it. Ever asked that question before? It's okay, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but there's a huge difference. A settler does what? Starts something new. An immigrant comes to something already built. Which one started America?
Settlers did.
So
you need both, right? You need both. You start a company, for example, you start a coffee shop, you're gonna make the bread, you're gonna make the pastries, you're gonna make the coffee beans, you're gonna run out every single drink yourself. No, you need people. You need people to help you work this. Today we're gonna be reacting to a Charlie Kirk video. Listen, Charlie Kirk, I love almost all your videos. I love your channel. I'm a subscriber. I agree with a lot of what Charlie Kirk says and honestly stands for. However, I do believe, when I say this with all love and all respect, Charlie Kirk has, in a sense, fallen for his political agenda over certain values that I think we should never lose as a Christian, right? Again, I love Charlie Kirk. I think he's a net positive for YouTube, for society, for political views and whatnot. However, you can't die hard root for someone in every single word because people are going to let you down, right? And I think that's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to not dying hard for a political stance. I think there should be it's okay to be firm on certain political stance. It's necessary, right? Or if you don't stand for anything, you're going to fall for anything, right? And so with that being said, today we're going to be reacting to some Charlie Kirk videos where I think he might be wrong. All right, let's get into it.
How's it going?
I'm great.
Good. I have a question about immigration.
Okay.
So I'm a legal immigrant
From what country?
Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I got out of the Marine Corps too.
Okay.
So would I be accepted here?
Did you come the right way? You came legally?
Yeah, I came legally.
So you were born in Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, that's super rare. Wow. Yeah, I mean, look, that's
How is that
not.
rare?
Why is it rare?
Yeah.
Because most people from Mexico come into the country illegally.
I don't think that's
8 million people in the last 2 years. How many legal immigrants from Mexico have there been in the last 2 years? Probably 100 to 200,000.
Listen, I agree with Charlie up to this point. There has been a lot of illegal immigration happening on the border. There's so many photos. I'm sure you guys have been seeing these. There's people that are being interviewed on the street that are really clearly affected by this, right? People in New York, people that, they see a lot more growth in certain populations that might not be a net positive. And to that point, I will agree. I think just letting everybody into the border, into America, is not a net positive, right? I have firm beliefs on immigration in itself. However, I do agree we can't just let every single person in, right? But let's keep watching. I think there's something else in here that we might disagree with.
a couple million, but
Not a couple million.
how are we
No.
getting those numbers though?
From the federal government. 8 million illegal people crossed into our country the last 2 years. Now, I'm complimenting you for coming here legally.
Is that more than the legal?
Yeah, so illegal is about 1.2 million total green cards administered every single year, worldwide, globally.
Is that Mexicans or people coming from Mexico?
Well, that's a good
8
point.
million?
Not everyone. It's from Mexico and everyone's Mexican. That's a good point. Yeah.
No, I was just asking.
No, that's actually smart. So it's probably more like 1 out of 8 are probably from Mexico. So that's still about 1 million. But I'm not criticizing, I'm just complimenting you.
But are you all for diversity, right?
No.
Then wait, so legal immigration is bad.
Right now we have way too much legal immigration. Yeah. Way too much.
1.2 million?
It's way too much. Yeah.
But okay, how about let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Diversity is bad.
Well, diversity can be bad, yeah.
Why?
Well, because what if everyone's strangers with one another? Speaking different languages has nothing in common. How is that a country?
They can learn.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. A lot of people learn.
Is Elon Omar, is she assimilating to the American experiment well?
And I think where he's coming from in here, and this is where we start to fall into some disagreements between me and Charlie, right? This topic really hits home for me specifically because there's a lot of people that I know that are immigrants, right? Legal immigrants, right? And I do know some illegal immigrants as well, right? And the topic that he's hitting on is he does not want to see as much legal immigration. Obviously, that means he doesn't want to see as much illegal immigration, right? So with that point, I will have to say, I think, for me, in my personal opinion, this is where a lot of people draw the line. This is where a lot of people start to say, yeah, this is why I can't associate myself with right-wing ideologies, or, you know, people that are in the middle, people that are on the left, obviously, do hold a lot of values when it comes to the Republican side of things. However, I can't die hard say I'm a Republican. I would much rather say I'm a Christian that has these core values that are very structured in the Bible, right? I am open to change my mind on certain things. Maybe I'm wrong about certain topics, right? Maybe I don't know all the issues within gun control. Maybe I don't know all the issues within immigration that maybe Charlie's going to touch base on. But as far as the truth, right, I think it is important that we as people come together unified, especially with, we're talking about our neighbors. I think diversity is super important. There's so much that legal immigrants do, that people that are born here don't want to do, right? Farm labor, USDA, says from 2018 to 20, 30% of crop farm workers were US born. 30%, by the way. 6% were immigrants who had obtained US citizenship. 23% were other authorized immigrants, primarily permanent residents or green card holders, and the remaining 41% held no work authorization. What does this mean? It does mean that there's a lot of illegal immigrants working to essentially feed America and make things run smoothly for the farming industry, right? So yeah, a lot of farmers, whether you want to believe it or not, oh, my grandpa, he picks his own, he does it ethically. Beautiful, great. But the truth is, this is just not the case when it comes to what's happening in the US, when it comes to how many people have to work for there to be food, cheaper food on the table, right? And so, listen, that's just the first point with why diversity is so important. And this isn't just Mexicans that pick these vegetables, these fruits. However, it is a majority. I can tell you about 95% of immigrants that I know have a conservative mentality, right? And that's just the truth. Maybe you're not surrounding yourself with a lot of people from the immigrant culture, right, that leave their countries, but they come here and they come here to work, right, for the most part. When it comes to, yes, are there bad apples? Yes. Do bad people come through the borders? Yes, 100%. That's like teachers. Are there bad apples that are teachers? Yes. Should we just get rid of teachers? No, of course not. That's not the way to go about this, right? And Charlie might disagree and say, I'm not saying completely get rid of it. I'm just saying regulate it a lot more. But see, the issue with this is that when you regulate things a lot more, it doesn't stop the problem. It's just like gun control. A lot of people on the conservative side will say, oh, more regulations won't actually affect them. See what I'm saying here? It's like we understand that there's parallels in these topics, but yet when it comes to the topic of immigration, we are so die hard on this for some reason, right? I do understand where he's coming from on wanting to make this country better, wanting the best for this country, right? But I think we also have to look at things through a Christian perspective. These are millions of people, right, that are valuable, that are human beings, right? Just because they were born somewhere else doesn't mean they have less value, right? And they might be leaving their families not just to have fun, right, or to get rich. They're leaving their families because of the corruption that's going on where they came from. They're leaving their countries because it's not the best country to grow a family in. They want something better, and they recognize that America is better, right? So I think that's our first issue, right? We have to look at, be very careful when we, talk about this topic.
Right.
You want to? Okay, let's go back to immigration.
Okay,
You
sure.
still want to continue?
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, but you cannot bring people into the country that don't share your values and still be a country. You could be something else. You just won't be a country.
How do you think this country was? A lot of people. This country was made by people coming from different places.
Good point. So were we made by settlers or immigrants?
This business, right? It's an and both thing, right? It's not just a black and white. Oh, settlers, only settlers. Like, nah, man. Like, you need both. Who do you think is picking your fruit? You need both. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be overly dramatic about these things. It's just plain and simple. I understand where he's coming from. However, it is putting a blind over our heads for the sake of a political ideology, just for the sake of doing it, to stand firm on something. And listen, I think as Christians, we should be able to have an open mind and open heart. That's the only way we become Christian, is when we throw out the old us, right, and become new. And just because we then take that decision to become a Christian doesn't mean that we have all knowledge of all things. We're a species that is continuing to grow. You are not a perfect human yourself. I don't think you yourself would admit that you're perfect in any sense of the way, right? We try to be, but what does trying to be mean? It means that you are consistently learning. Does mean you have to stand firm on certain things, which I think that should be the Bible. But again, you're supposed to be following what the Bible says over your own political ideologies. Okay.
We're not a nation of immigrants, we're a nation of settlers. And yes, we have used immigration as a tool to enrich the American experiment because a lot of people assimilated. The Irish did, the Polish did, the Italians did, the Germans did. We are now losing assimilation as a primary prerequisite. Okay, so do more people speak Spanish or English in California at home, under the age of 30?
Probably, I don't know.
Spanish. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person, it just means that you're losing what a country is, which is borders, language, culture, amongst other things. That's not it.
Listen, man, this isn't the Tower of Babel, right? And people are probably going to say that it is, right? It's like, oh, but this was a Babel. Look, that was a specific thing. God specifically brought on confusion so that tower won't be built. Do not say it's the exact same thing, because it is not the same thing, okay? It is okay to bring in different spices. It is okay to bring in different cultures. It is okay. God made us differently. God made us in his image, but he gave us different talents, different ways of expressing ourselves. We can worship God in Spanish, in Portuguese. We can worship God in Romanian, in Ukrainian language, and there's so many ways we can express God's love and unify each other without having it being, oh, my country's English, it should only be English speaking. Come on, man. Like, come on. That's not... I understand where he's coming from as far as you got to keep the values, the traditions. Beautiful. That's great. But the immigrants that I know of course, there's so many immigrants, right? But the immigrants that I know, and that's a lot, have a conservative mindset, right? At least the ones that go to church, the ones that really stick with what the Bible says. And this is why it's so important. The Bible is what glues us together as people, right? And we shouldn't see it as a black and white, right? In the sense of tearing people apart for their cultural differences, right? It is okay. It is okay. Trust me, it's okay, Charlie. It's all right.
And that's fine. If the argument is we want to become something other than a country, then...
Okay, I'm wasting too much of your time.
You're not wasting time. First of all, thank you for coming to the country legally.
All right.
And thank you for serving the country.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I want to give one verse here to tie all this together. And all right, so it's in Luke 10:25. It says, one day an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? The man answered, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Jesus told him. Do this and you will live. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Jesus replied with a story. Love this. It's beautiful. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over, looked at him lying there, but he also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan, right? So Samaritan to the Jews at this point in time were considered almost enemies, right? That's why it says despised Samaritan, right? Came along. And when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn, where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here." Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same." Right? And so I think this verse is as clear as day, right? Again, I think we're called to love our neighbor. It's pretty obvious here. And our neighbor might be somebody or a group of people that we might despise, right? Or that we might consider non-beneficial, right? That man went out of his way in the parable of Jesus and did something that wasn't going to bring him any benefit, that wasn't going to make him wealthier, right? He wasn't thinking that. He just saw someone in need, someone struggling, someone that even his own people and maybe even him had big disagreements on, but he didn't see that. He overlooked that. He paid for what he needed, gave him shelter. And this isn't a one exact parallel to solving immigration, right? I understand, like I mentioned already, that we shouldn't let every single person in, right? There's really bad people out there, right? However, there's also people in need out there, people that are good people that just want to better the lives of their family and bring value to this country and want to be proud Americans themselves, right? Diversity is a positive, right? For the right reasons, right? Diversity for the sake of diversity, I think, falls very short all the time. But here in this story, we see 2 people that are different people, that are different backgrounds, that don't know each other, but see the person in need. And Jesus tells us that the most important commandment, to stretch out our hands and help those, right? So, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Charlie, I love your content. Charlie, I love all that you do. I pray for you and your family. Big shout out to your family. I pray that one day you and I can sit down and really get in depth into this conversation, give you my thoughts, and I'll hear you out. And so it's all love on this end of the things. I think it's important, though, to speak on perspectives, right? Going on now, right? This is, at the end of the day, the now perspective. Gave you a different perspective. All right, y'all. Peace. Thank you.